And we're back on a Monday night late night special, McFiles Monday night. Good to see everybody in the house tonight. We got a lot to cover. We're going to be here with you for a while tonight. But before we get to me, I've got a special guest that we hated we couldn't get her last week, but she's going to be with us right now. Leslie Milway's on the phone with me, and we thank her for staying up with us a little bit later than normal. It's just 10:23 in the Central Time Zone, so
it's not bad.
Not too bad. It's not like I'm calling her at 1 o'clock in the morning, like I've done before. I think sometimes.
Yes.
accidentally
fine.
a few times, just hitting the wrong button.
That's fine.
But anyway, it's good to see you, friend. How are you tonight? It's good to see you. What a crazy weekend.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have been listening to all the naysayers this week. Tucker Carlson was on Megan on Thursday, and I thought, I'll hear him out because I usually like her logical approach, but today she just really was so anti-war, anti-striking Iran. So I'm really glad you talked about this because, wow, it shocked me. It was so brutal.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a disease, Leslie. I think it's literally a virus that has gotten into people, and it's like a parrot. It's like Tucker parrots her, Candace parrots Megan, Megan parrots Candace, Hodge twins parrots Tucker. This Anna Kaspasian, Carrie Prejean. Now she's entered her bimbo voice into it. And I hate to say that. I hate to speak disparagingly of women like that. But it's like everything is Israel. Everything is Israel's fault. You've got people blaming Israel for Charlie Kirk's death. You've got people blaming Israel for these deaths of American soldiers tonight. And it's amazing to me how that Iran has launched a 50-year war of terror on this world, not just Israel and America, but on this world. And, who knows the number of thousands of people? It's in the tens of thousands, maybe even approaching 100,000. I don't know. But it's affected millions. I'll just leave it like that, what they've done with their terrorism. And it started in 1979 when the then incompetent Democrat President Jimmy Carter deposed the Shah. Things were not perfect under the Shah, but at least he had some kind of stability and had some kind of relationship with America. And then this Islamic revolution took place, and Carter sold him under the bus, and the Ayatollah Khomeini takes over, and Iran became a jihadist hellhole for nearly 50 years, where a woman would get killed for not even wearing a scarf. And, I read a sick comment about this Khomeini, the one that just got sent to the Virgin hole in the sky. I guess he's meeting his 32 virgins right now, or 72. But he literally said that he believed that it was the obligation of every Iranian man to rape as many women as he could to make sure that they were not part of those virgins. I mean, literally. I mean, that's what he said. That's a quote. I'm not making that up out of the head. This was a sick individual. He had blood on his hands. He had tried to kill Trump twice. I don't know if you heard the interview tonight, Steve Wyckoff, and I'm not a huge fan of his, but I have to give him credit for trying. Him and Jared Kushner met with the Iranians last week, and after listening to him, I am more convinced that we were 1,000,000% justified in doing what we were doing. He basically, I'll just summarize it like this. He basically said that the Iranians bragged to him that they had enough material to still make 10 nuclear bombs. And they had no intention of stopping their production of that. And they had no intentions of stopping their campaign of terror. They mocked him. He was basically telling Sean Hannity tonight that him and Jared were being mocked by the Iranian representatives, but they never saw coming what Trump was going to do. They did not believe Trump had the guts to take them on head on like this, and they still have underestimated him from day one. You would have thought after the summer incident, back in the summer hammer incident, that they would have gotten the lesson, but There's something arrogant about this regime, Leslie, and they're still fighting tonight. They're still sending
And they're
missiles
evil. I
into.
know.
They're evil. They're sending missiles into Cyprus, and they're sending missiles into Saudi Arabia. Our embassy in Saudi Arabia got bombed earlier tonight, and they're still trying to kill people, just like they've been doing for 50 years now.
Yeah, and I didn't see that interview. I was just telling Bill tonight, I said, I didn't understand, and people were complaining. The talking heads were complaining. Why are Wyckoff and Jared Kushner going over there to all these places in the Middle East? What is their game plan? Well, now it makes sense. The one thing I'm thinking about listening to these people today, I said, Trump has never let us down on any foreign relations issues. I'm not going to start right now not believing he's not in control. I think he knows a lot more. And you're right. This started in 79. I think the big vacuum that I see, immediate problem, is that there is no definitive leader. So do you take some offshoot of what's been in power and work with them and hope they're more moderate, or do you start all over? And how do the people react? They have no arms. How are you going to fight, even if it's 15% of the government? How do you fight that with no weapons?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you do that. And look, the thing about it is this, Leslie. Even if you could trust the Iranians, which you can't, even if this new regime comes into play, and let's just say they're friendly to the West, if you don't take away these missile the long range missiles, eventually, and Marco Rubio said it tonight. Look, their goal was to develop a missile that would hit New York City. They had long range missiles that would reach as far as Europe and Britain. I mean, London was under threat. Starmer is an absolute, complete idiot and moron. That he's over there apologizing tonight he's apologizing to the wrong people. He's apologizing to the Islamic jihadists that Britain would allow their air bases to be used by America. He don't realize that the same people that he's apologizing for would blow his city out of the water in a heartbeat if they could. But that's what their goal was, and that's what Witkoff was as good as saying tonight, that they were developing missiles to reach New York, to reach Washington, D.C., to reach our big cities. And if they could have done it, they would have. And look, you can't get away from the fact that these killers, this kid, the one that tried to kill Trump last July in 25, it was July or August of 25, whenever that date was, that he was tied to Iran. They probably paid this kid to do it because they've been bragging that they wanted to kill him twice. And Trump even joked about it tonight. He said, they tried twice and missed. I didn't try but once, and I got him before he got me.
Well, and I think we don't understand, and that's one thing they didn't seem to address today, was there is a window of opportunity to have these 40 or 50 guys together in one place, and that was the brilliance of it.
Absolutely.
They were able to get all of those guys at one time instead of even worrying about taking out civilians. You have one target that you're going to reach all these people, and you don't blame him. That might not happen again for a month. It might not happen again for a year. You don't know what their timelines are for all of them to meet and get together. So bravo to Mossad for figuring that one out too.
Right.
They obviously were very involved with that.
Well, and that's what I heard tonight. I'm glad you brought that up. It's the Mossad. Israel is targeting the military leaders. They're targeting the actual leaders of Iran, where America is targeting the infrastructure. In other words, we're going after the bases, the missiles, the ships, the hardware. Whereas the Mossad and Israel are busy tracking down the leadership. 49 leaders, the top 49 leaders.
That's amazing.
That's unreal. And, I was over there in January, as you know. And there's something about nighttime over there that every time Israel's enemies attack them, they usually attack them in the middle of the night. They never wait till dawn. This is what made Trump's attack so wild and the Israelis' attack. They waited till daylight. They normally do the same thing, usually our attacks. I remember Gulf War I. I remember, the second Gulf War. Everything was at night because, night gives you cover. We didn't do that this time. And I think it goes back to the intelligence, like you just said, was so good, and they would have never suspected it. From what I heard, what I'm hearing over the last couple of days, the Iranians were caught flat-footed. They never dreamed that Trump would do this. And I'm just watching video after video of the Iranian people rejoicing in the streets. There's joy among the people, and there's a real chance that when this regime does fall fully, that they're going to go a direction. It may not be an American-style democracy. It's not going to. I may be wrong. I'm not saying they're going to be walking down the street saying "We love Jesus" signs, which I hope that eventually one day they will. I don't mean that funny, but I mean it's probably still going to be Islamic. But I do believe that the people will have a voice in their government, and I do believe, even making that comment about the signs, I pray that it will be open to the West, bringing in the gospel, bringing in at least missionaries, and at least being open to that. That may be a pipe dream, but that's my hope and desire through all this. That something good comes of this in the long term.
Well, and the fact that the UAE, all these countries in the Middle East participated. I mean, what a coup to be able to get. Poor Saudi Arabia, they obviously have an interest in that. They are Sunni. Now, the Shia Muslim, which is in Iran, those are the radical, psycho, cover your head woman, you're not worthy. Those are the radical ones and they don't even like them. So I'm not saying that the Muslims are going to let us into, like you said, be missionaries, but at least they don't kill people.
Right.
It's more of a moderate religion there. At least there's some openness. Yeah, you're right. There's Saudi princes and all that. I get that. But at least they'll talk to the West, and we have relationships with them.
I'll agree with that. I don't trust the Saudis no more than I do the Iranians. I'll put it like this. Bill Federer said it best. Last time me and you talked, I may have even said it on the show. The only difference between Iran and Saudi with their view of Islam, the Iranians' view of Islam is they want to take over the world now. They believe Islam will do that. The Saudis' view is they'll take over the world later. And that's really the difference. Right. So I don't know. And again, that's why my optimism is tempered as to what's coming. And there is a possibility, and we might need to face this, that what is after this, and there is a possibility that may be worse, even though I can't believe how it can be. But there are leaders that still are in place in that leadership. This Vajali or whatever his name is, I can't pronounce these names. I'm sure the Iranians. I had somebody in my show last night correct my pronunciation of the Crown Prince, and I apologize for mispronouncing his name, the son of the Shah. But look, the leader that's next in line, he is more hardcore than Khamenei was. And see, that is a possibility that if we don't finish this job, and I think that's why Trump, and I shared this with Ricky Wilson earlier tonight, I listened to him today and I listened to him last night, and I think that he sees that this is not going to be it's not going to be the summer event that we had where everybody was rah-rahing. We went in, we bombed their nuclear facilities, we got back out, nobody got hurt. It was done in a day or two. The smoke cleared. The left was screaming, but we were done, and it was a victory for our military. And it was a victory that it sent a random message that we were not going to allow them to build nuclear weapons. And we felt like we had decimated a good deal of their nuclear facilities. That tone that he set yesterday and today was different. I think he's bracing the country that we're in for a long haul. He's given it 4 weeks, even though we're ahead of schedule. But Leslie, there's no guarantee this is going to just last 4 weeks. And I think that we need to, I think we tonight, on this blood moon Purim night, and it's so prophetic, this whole ordeal is taking place on a night that in the next 10 hours, we're here in the east, we're supposed to see the blood moon around 5:30 in the morning. But you folks out west, your part of the world, will see it probably a lot earlier than we will.
Yeah.
And but when these blood moons take place, we're going to talk about it a little bit later tonight. And you have the also the celebration of Purim, which is the
Jewish,
salvation,
yeah.
the Jewish salvation from a Persian dictator, a Persian effort by Haman to exterminate the Jews, a Persian plot, I should say, to exterminate the Jews that took place some 2,500 years ago, 500 or so years before Christ, with Esther and Mordecai. I don't think you get lost on that this is a prophetic time, and I think God knew that this was going to take place and ordain it, and I think he's got in Trump's hands. But I think we need to realize out there tonight, this is not going to be some cakewalk and we're out of there in a few days, because I looked at the figure tonight, we've had 6 servicemen dead now, 18 are seriously wounded, and I'm sure the death toll will probably go up. And Trump is trying to warn the country that this is not some patty cake bake your man event.
No. You know, one thing when you were talking, I was thinking this. Megan had on Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she's absolutely crazy. She is. I think she's just like revengeful. I can't imagine. I mean, she was so behind Trump, and to have her so anti-war, she's saying she's incensed by this, that there's no reason to go in like that. But I think the brilliance was that Trump went in last summer. He was there for 36 hours. I mean, not even that. Goes in, blows up what they think was the nuclear, the head of the snake. But that gave the Iranians false hope. It made them think, he's not going to take us out like that. He came in, he just wanted to make his point. That's all he's going to do, or it won't be anything more than that. I guarantee you, I think they were blown away by what happened. I really do.
There is every indication that they did not believe this was going to be to the magnitude. And I don't think, and I tell you what, why they attacked the Arab countries. They wanted the Arab countries to blame America and Israel for the Iranians attacking them. But instead of doing that, the Arab countries, and this is the miracle of all this to me, they recognized the source of this was Iran. And look, you talk about Saudi Arabia. Look, Saudi Arabia has got skin in this game because Iran has attacked Saudis in the past. They have undermined, and the Houthis, and they've tried to destabilize the Saudi government. They've tried to destabilize the UAE. They've tried to destabilize Yemen and Qatar and all of these governments. And I think that the Arab world is beginning to see the light. They've definitely tried to undermine Lebanon, and Hamas and Hezbollah both are Iran proxies, Leslie. And look, we've just
I know.
We've seen this scenario, and I think Trump finally just has had enough. And I want to talk to you about this because this goes back to presidents. And you go back to '79, we had an inept president, Jimmy Carter. Reagan, to his credit, I think just the fear of Reagan caused the Iranians to give those hostages up. But I think we cannot give Reagan a pass because in '83 we had 2 attacks on our Marines, including one in October of that year where 224 Marines were killed in a Marines barrack in Lebanon. Reagan did nothing. He did nothing to retaliate. And, he went after Libya later, but we never dealt with Iran fully. And I think Reagan had this idea because this was at the time Iraq was getting power. Saddam Hussein was gaining power, and he let Iraq do his dirty work for him. And then we wound up having to fight Iraq just 10 years after the events of the hostages in '91. And I just think that presidents have dropped the ball. H.W. Bush didn't do anything. Clinton didn't do anything. The Khobar Towers, the bombing of those embassies in Tanzania and Kenya were tied to Iran. I mean, you go back, and then Obama was an Iranian himself, in my opinion, giving him a 1.5 billion in cash on a tarmac to make them play nice, knowing good and well, and all they did was take that money and buy the missiles that probably they're shooting tonight were paid for by American money. And then you had the ineptness of Biden. Trump is the only president, Leslie, I believe, that could have done this and has the guts to do it. And that is why he is such a key figure of history. I don't think we're going to ever appreciate him till later down the road in history, that what he did for this world and this country. I'm not saying this is going to cure everything, but I tell you what, it's going to take a player off the table that was causing instability in the Middle East.
Oh, I was thinking about that last night. I think what he continues to do, he has a brilliant mind that he can, move the pieces on the game board and make it work. I mean, I know he's got incredible help. I think Rubio and Hegseth probably don't get enough credit for their intentions. I just think he has an unbelievable cabinet. I really do like this General Kane, Raising Kane.
Yeah.
I like the approach, and I think you and I have talked about this before too. I have to believe there is more to the story that we do not know either. Now, Trump's usually pretty transparent, and like you said, I think he's been really transparent about the fact that this may take a little while. There will be loss of life, and that breaks my heart because no one wants their son or daughter to die on someone else's battlefield. I get that. But you still have to fix something that's been festering for 47 years. You have to do that. So now or never. And I think Trump has the courage and tenacity to do this. You're right. I can't think of any other president that's had this kind of approach to world peace. Nobody like him. Nobody's a better friend. Real.
Well, I think it's scumbaggery of the left to make him out to be this evil killer because, they're out there tonight, Schiff and Murphy in Connecticut and Hakeem Jeffries, and they're siding with and then Washington Post today, of all people, basically wrote the most glowing obituary in the world for the deranged murderer of Iran, almost like he's Joan of Arc. And I want to ask you about this anti-Semitism, though. You've got Megyn Kelly, you got Tucker, you got Candace, all blaming Israel for this. You got Anna Kasparian blaming Israel, saying that we're doing Israel's bidding, Israel's war, that these soldiers died for Israel, not America, which is it's just disgusting. Tucker has gone as far as to say that the Mossad agents were planning this. In fact, I don't have the comment in front of me, but Tucker was basically, in fact, I do have the comment in front of me. Let me go to my X account. Tucker basically he's out there claiming that there was a meeting with Mossad agents before all this happened, that they were going to pressure Israel to do this. And, he just a complete lie. But where is all this? Where do you think this ends? And look, I absolutely, I appreciate J.D. Vance, I really do. But I will tell you this: he has got to renounce the stuff. I think Trump's had enough. Trump came out tonight. Somebody asked Trump about Tucker, and Trump basically said, Tucker Carlson does not speak for me. I don't care what he says; it has no effect on me. And I think that had to be done. Trump's done it. I think J.D. Vance needs to do it. And I think they need to distance themselves from these Jew haters, because that's what they are. They're Hamans. They're modern-day Hamans that would see nothing better than to see America turn her back on Israel. And I warn our nation tonight, that's death to America. If we want to see death to America, turn our back on Israel. What you think about that?
I agree. And why do you think Tucker Carlson has been in the White House 3 times in the last month to the White House? Do you think they're just trying to get opposing opinions to make the right choice? Do you think they're trying to settle him down and get him to understand? I mean, I'm really curious why you think he would be there, because I was so appalled last Thursday. I was really offended by Marjorie Taylor Greene and Megan's take. She's like, we have no reason to go to war. I'm like, what are you
got
talking
50
about?
years worth of reasons going to war. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
No. And that's what, you had Charles C.W. Cook and Lowry on, and they're always, I wouldn't call them neocons, but they're certainly more conservative than she is. And they were laying out the case for this. And that's the first thing one of them said. Hey, Megan, this has been going on for 50 years. What do you mean? We've lost hundreds and thousands of lives. They've lost tens of thousands of lives to this regime. This regime is evil, and this should have been done 45 years ago. So in 83, when we had the chance, and I agree with that. I really do.
Yeah. I want you to listen to this while we're on this subject. This is a quote, okay? I'm not going to tell you who said it. I'm going to read you something. And they say they basically, this is anti-Jew rhetoric. This is tonight, since we're talking about Purim. Quote, they will learn a language, become what they have to become, move wherever they need to move, and wherever they go, they bring their filth with them. The filthiest people, the most shudders and disgust, who work in the most debased industries. It's not entertainment. It's always been disgusting. It's always been about filth, prostitution, importing people from Vienna and trying to collapse America, successful across Europe. Here we are today. This is what we're facing with America. Now, this was just posted an hour ago. That is the Korzakian Jew conspiracy coming from none other than Candace Owens. And,
oh, my God.
That's quotes, Leslie. That's out of 1938 Nazi Germany, is it not? That is the rhetoric of the Germans.
That is unbelievable. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I think they're being used as tools of Satan. And, I'm driving down the road listening to all this hate today. And I said, God, take this away from me. Give me clarity. Give me, show me the way, because these people, they seem so lost, and they are big talking heads in our country. And it makes me doubt everything I've ever thought in the past about their thoughts on war and people and industry. I mean, everything. It's kind of unnerving, to tell you the truth. That's the way I feel.
I'll agree with that. Do you think that there has been foreign money? And I'll just read you the quote from Megyn Kelly. She says, no one should have to die for a foreign country. I don't think those service members died for the United States. I think they died for Iran or for Israel. No one is crying that the Ayatollah is dead, but our government's job is not to look out for Iran or Israel. And that is so narrow-minded at the very minimum. That's a dumb, blonde statement. That's just a dumb, crazy statement. We're not looking out for Iran. We're destroying Iran. And we're not just looking out for Israel, because let me tell you this, Leslie, that 50-year campaign of terror was not just against Israel. Those lives that were lost, those men in those barracks in Lebanon in 1983 were Americans. The people that died in the U.S. Embassy in Tanzania and Kenya were Americans. Those hostages, 440 days or months that they spent, 440 days they spent. 444. We had, by the way, that's how many views we had tonight. 444 views on our video, almost prophetic, about the hostages in 1979 that humbled this country, that humiliated this country, that cost Jimmy Carter his presidency. And we could not, it was like we were paralyzed with fear to go in and do anything about it. And those were American hostages. American hostages. The situation in Iraq. How many of those fatalities in the Iraq War? I wasn't 100% sold on Iraq in 2003. I was at the beginning, but this nation building I never was. But how many of our soldiers were killed by Iranian agents, Iranian pieces that went and infiltrated Iraq and were killing Americans under the guise of the Iraqi cover? I mean, we don't have
Who
any
knows?
number.
Yeah. Who knows how many? I mean, yeah, you're right. And you know what I'm really worried about now are sleeper cells. You know, if 20 million or even 15 million people came over in the last 4 years, and they're from 20 of the worst countries that we know of, they include Chinese, Iraqi, lots of Muslims. How many of those people are sleeper cells? It doesn't take more than one person to blow up hundreds of people or thousands. Sporting events. I mean, that was the first thing I thought about because and you are too. I'm a huge baseball fan,
Yes.
and you're in that stadium with 40,000 people, or you're in a football stadium with 80,000 people, and you're thinking, just one or two or three lone wolves could totally obliterate tens of thousands
of people, Leslie. Do you think that this situation in Austin, Texas over the weekend was terrorist related?
Oh, of course it was. Of course it was. There's no question. At first, I thought he might have just been set off, by what happened and outraged. But the planning and everything that went into it, he's been working on that for a while. So I think we'll see more of those people. And I mean, it's a shame. They said, oh, well, only 10 people died, but 19 additional were injured. Well, I'm sorry, that's too many people. One is too many, because they were let in illegally, or they overstayed their visa, or they, we let them in. So I think, to me, that's the one thing I thought today, too. This blood of many of these men are on Bush, Obama,
yes.
Clinton,
yes,
and certainly Biden,
yes.
because he's the one that set the pieces in motion to make all these things possible. I mean, there's no question we're going to see more of that. I mean, there's no question. They have been empowered to do this. They have hate and disgust for America, even though they're here enjoying it. I'll have to send you a picture. I was out working on Saturday and went through a neighborhood, and there was a man in his front yard, and he had a flag on one side that said F-ICE, only it had the real word.
Right.
And then he was flying a Palestinian flag.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, how can that be in Oklahoma? I do not get it. And my husband said, you need to go by there again. I was stunned, and I was running late for this appointment, or I would have taken a picture, but my husband said, you need to go get a picture of that, and you need to send it to the FBI.
Yeah, you should.
Because that's scary. I mean, it's a double whammy. It's bad enough when you fly your flag. If it's so great, go back. Go live that way. Leave us alone and leave our Christian people alone. It's just the belligerence they have. I dare you to call me out on it. We've empowered them, the Biden administration, and all this woke crap. One thing we're not hearing about are those protests that happened on these college campuses 2 years ago. Where are all these evil people that should have been arrested? What happened to that guy? I can't even think of his name now. The ringleader of the college thing that was supposed to be deported, but his wife was pregnant.
I know you're talking about Khalil Bar. He's got a last name, Gilbar, or something like that. I can't pronounce these names. I get laughed at because I can't pronounce all these names. Emar, something like that.
And where's the Maryland dad? Is he still here?
No, he's gone. He's somewhere in this world. He's somewhere in this world. He's somewhere out there. Hey, but I want to ask you something about these protests, and I'll let you go after this. I know it's getting late. But where's all the protesters now, Leslie? We've just freed all the oppressed women of the world in Iran. I thought these kids were all about human rights. They were campaigning that Israel was violating the rights of the Palestinians and violating the rights of the Gazans and committing genocide. Well, where was all these protests when Iranians were killing 46,000 of their own people? I didn't see one protest. I didn't see one peep out of all these anti-Semites. I never heard anything from Megyn Kelly, never heard anything out of Tucker Carlson, never heard anything out of Candace Owens, never heard out of anybody that they were complaining that Iran was slaughtering their own citizens. So,
I know.
Where is, and you talking about hypocrisy, and I want to say it about these Democrats tonight. I never heard Chris Murphy complaining that Iran was killing its own people. Never heard anything from Adam Schiff. Never heard anything from Chuck Schumer. Never heard anything out of Hakeem Jeffries. Never heard anything out of Smallwell out in California. Gavin Newsom is even sticking his nose in this, even literally claiming that Israel was responsible for that daycare bombing that Iran basically did. They're the ones that was responsible. It was an Iranian missile. We got the video of it, and it's, look, it is sickening to the core that we've got American people that are traitors. And look, the Bible told us in the last days that men would be haughty, high-minded, and the third thing on that list in 2 Timothy 3 are traitors. People are traitors to this country. They're traitors to the faith. They're traitors to the truth. They are the part of society that makes us all be ashamed, not just to being Americans, but sometimes just being human, because you wonder how in the world can you embrace such. And then I think about the State of the Union. We talked about, me and you talked about that last week. I think we talked about the State of the Union together last week. We did. And how can you not stand up against gender mutilation of children? How can you not stand up against drugs and fentanyl coming across your border? How can you not stand for the absolute corruption and fraud where billions and billions of dollars are being funneled to basically the same kind of people that we're warring against tonight, same kind of ideology, the Somalia jihadism is basically, what that money was going to. It was funding. Why can't we stand up? Why can we do these things? And I heard Murphy tonight say basically that Trump is mourning the death of 6 people when his own ICE agents are murdering American citizens. See, that's the sign of a demented individual, a deranged fool that needs psychological. But you know what's scary, Les? They're running our country. They're in the halls of Congress. And I say this to the people of America tonight. Are you not tired of this? Are you not tired of these people in power? Why do you put them in power? Why do you elect them? Why do you let people like this get in the halls of Congress? Do we not have some good people with some common sense in their brains to run this country? Do we not have some people that love America? I would just be happy. I don't even care if they got common sense at this point. I just want people in Congress that care about our country, that care about America and love the country. I take that at this point.
Well, it's sad that they have one person, being John Fetterman, that will go to bat and say the president didn't need Congress. He acted accordingly, and I support him. And, he's one of the few that I don't know of any Democrats that are supporting it, but it's whatever Trump is for, they're against, period. It doesn't matter if it's better for the country or better for humans or better for the world. Whatever he's for, they are against, period.
I got to ask you before we leave. I know that this is a sore subject, and it is a sore subject for me too, not just for your sake, but for many reasons. I know you saw the Clintons' testimony. There's a video that has come out today of Hillary basically she lost her during that hearing on Capitol Hill about the Epstein files. Bill sit there with a straight face. In fact, I saw a video tonight that he was smiling and laughing at images of him and Jeffrey. His lawyer, whoever that was, had to take the book away from him almost and say, would you stop laughing and making fun? Because he was sitting there telling everybody, well, I wasn't aware of any of the crimes. Well, he was looking at images in a book of Epstein with underage girls, and he was laughing about it. From Leslie Millway's point of view, did they commit perjury under oath? at that hearing?
Well, of course. And if we expected anything more, then shame on us, because I was looking at his testimony, and I have to say, I've said it before, I've said it in the 90s, I've said it forever. He is one of the most shady and best liars I have ever seen in my entire life. It is with a coldness and his personality, he can try to wiggle his way out of anything. I mean, it's amazing to me because he's lying through his teeth. Now, at least she has some feeling and some anger. I mean, he's so scary. He doesn't even bat an eye, like you said. He laughs. He is joking about one of the most serious, heinous crimes in the world. But he's committed many of them. Why would this be different?
Yeah, but you and I both know. But see, the question I've got then to Congress, the question I've got to Comer, is if you know that they're going to come up there and lie, if you know that they're going to come up there and do that, why give them the platform to even do it? I'd have had more respect had they just left him alone than to let him go lie under oath and get away with it. Because if me and you did that, me and you would be talking to each other from jail cells.
That's right.
I would be.
Absolutely.
I would be fined. You would be fined. We'd probably have records. We would be in jail. We'd be in prison. You can go to jail for a year and a half, 2 years, up to 5 years for committing perjury under oath. And why put the show? This is what burns me up with Congress. It's what burns me up with the Republicans. You give these people a platform to spew their crap, to spew their lies, and you don't do anything about it. You don't do anything to hold them accountable. Nothing will be done about that testimony. And you and I both know that they both were fully aware of what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. They even asked Hillary Clinton about Bill Gates, and she says, no, I don't know anything about Bill Gates. I don't know anything about his activities. Harvey Weinstein, the rapist that there's like a million pictures of him and Hillary and Bill partying together through the years. Oh, did you know Harvey Weinstein's activities? No, I don't know a thing about that. And for God's sake, Leslie, it's just mind-blowing to me that nothing happens. I just rather them not do it at all than to do this and cause a circus. Because it's an insult to me, and it's an insult to the victims to me.
It is. And that's the one thing. I think what happened to the Epstein victims is horrible. But, I also, it's like, hey, there's a whole lot more victims out there. There's Clinton victims and stuff.
That's right.
This guy was a president.
That's right.
Why are we still letting him off the hook? That's the thing that angered me. And I watched him and his dead eyes with a smile on his face. I mean, there is nothing that man, he's capable of anything. And if you didn't figure that out when you're watching him sit there and lie, it's chilling to me. It's chilling.
Well, there's going to be a reckoning one day. There's going to be a time, and I've told you this privately and publicly. He's not worth the bitterness. He's not worth the anger, because there's going to be a God in heaven one day that he's going to stand before. All of us are going to stand before the same God. I'm not saying this in judgment of Bill Clinton. But what I'm saying is that we all are going to stand before the Lord. And I will tell you this, there will not be any wiggling out of the truth there. We're not going to be able to wiggle our way and laugh and roll our eyes at the questions that God asks us about our lives, including Bill and Hillary Clinton. And I've never seen a colder couple. I've never seen, and we've talked about this too. I think the only redeeming thing that I saw is that I think the Democrat Party are so over the Clintons that they're not going to come to their rescue on any of this. If this turns out to be bad, I don't see anybody running to their rescue this time like they have in the past. I may be wrong about that, because the Trump derangement syndrome may kick in and they may feel like they need to protect Bill. But see, Bill even gave Trump pretty much a nod to say, look, I've never heard President Trump say anything that would indicate that he had anything to do with Epstein. And now, there's people out there that are mad at Bill for saying that. So that's just how sick this world is that we're in when you start dealing with this dead pedophile. And I just wish
I know.
there's a point to this. I just wish we'd move on from, because we got more serious problems tonight, buddy. We're in the Middle East
Oh, yeah, we
war.
do.
We're in the
Oh,
middle of a Middle East war.
definitely, definitely. And maybe I'm blessed, Chris. Maybe God has protected me
He has.
from the Clinton. Who knows if you go down that road so much that it's public all the time, like Juanita, she has endured an awful lot. I mean, she really has.
Yeah.
And it's for speaking out. And not to say that I wouldn't speak out, because I do and I have and I will, but maybe God has my back so that I'm not a moving target. And I'm grateful for that. Maybe I've been looking at this, maybe I need to let go of, you're right. It's hard to let go of
I
hate and
know.
everything. It is, but you have to do it. You have to do it.
Well, that's why we're cherished friends, my buddy. And listen, I love you to death. And you first did our show back almost 8 years ago. You were one of the early guests
Wow.
we ever had when we first started doing this in 2018. And we've just become friends and stayed friends through the years.
Absolutely.
And we've been able to talk to each other. And I'm grateful in a way what you just said has happened, because that the barbs have not come at you, because you've sort of been one of the unknowns that are not known. But I look at what Juanita, we've interviewed Juanita, and I know that Juanita has taken some hits. Look, she's even the Epsteins. If you think about it, he tried to discredit her by putting her name on his list, and he
Of
put a lot of
course.
names on that list just so he could get some kind of leeway to discredit what they were saying. And I'm sure that was done at Bill's request. And I say I'm sure it would not surprise me if that was not done at the Clintons' request, and I'm surprised more names have not reached that list. But I do know that there are other people out there that was in this circle that has been very devastated, and I don't want to get into all their names tonight. But I will tell you this: as I said, there's going to be a reckoning one day, and there's not going to be any wiggling out of what's happened, and that's why none of these people are worth our lives and our souls. And
No.
I think I'm more concerned tonight. I'm not. I wasn't surprised by their behavior at that hearing.
No.
I found it almost disingenuous of the Republicans to bring them in like that. If they were not serious about holding them accountable, why make it a circus? And just, you know, it's better that you not put them on record, because they're not going to do nothing but lie, and that's exactly what they did. And nothing's going to
Absolutely.
be done about it. And I think we've got much more serious problems tonight. We got a blood moon tonight. It's blood moon night. It's Purim. And we're in the middle of Persia tonight. The American
No.
military is in
I
the
wish
Middle
it
East
was still
tonight fighting a
Persia.
war.
Yeah.
And it's a dangerous war. And we could be doing this for weeks. And look, there's no guarantee that other actors don't get involved. And see, that's where it gets dangerous if it becomes a regional conflict where countries come to the rescue of Iran. And I'm not so sure that Russia and China, and I'll ask you this, and I keep telling you I'm gonna let you go, and I keep getting
No, it's
questions.
okay. I'm
Do you
good.
think Russia and China get involved in this at some point, or do you think they see the futility of it and they're going to fight another day?
I think that China and Russia are probably on their heels right now, wondering and thinking, what would this man do? Nothing. Nothing is off the table. And you got to realize, too, with the Venezuela, I mean, how genius that oil supply is cut off. Now the Iranian supply is cut off. That hurts China and Russia big time, especially China. And if they're getting 35% of their oil from these two sources, they got a major problem. Russia's got a problem with this war. They're getting a lot of their oil that way. If they have to pay 10 times more to get the oil, they'll still probably get the oil. But, that really hurts their economy. Both of those economies are in big trouble, especially Russia. And we don't honestly know how bad China is, because honestly, we don't know the inner workings, I think, as much as we do Russia from this war and everything. And we know what we got with Putin. Let's be honest. I mean, he's been around a long time. He's capable of everything. Nothing is sacred. But you got to put the squeeze on them with oil and the financial market. And I think if you can do those things, then you've got the upper hand. And I think that was what Trump's big picture is. I have to believe that. I have to believe that's part of it. And Venezuela was just the beginning. I think Cuba will fall eventually this year. I really do.
One of the guests that Hannity had on tonight, he basically told Hannity, he said, Cuba's next. He said, this March is going to be the month for Iran. He said, Easter and April are going to be the month for Cuba. And he said, if I was the Cuban government, he said, I'd be making arrangements because Trump's got his eyes on you next. And I wouldn't doubt if Colombia ate somewhere in his radar too, because I'm going to tell you something, Colombia is about as dangerous as any of them. And
I know.
I think that Trump, Leslie, I don't think we've seen a president like this in our lifetime, buddy. And what I mean by that is that he is literally taken on evil in the world unlike any American president ever has. The only thing I can liken this to in some ways is Lincoln, because Lincoln saw slavery as an evil, and at the cost of his presidency, at the cost of his life. Lincoln lost his life because of what he did in freeing the slaves when you get down to it. And I just think Trump is seeing this and saying, I've got one more term, and I want to go out and do as much as I can to make our country and the world, not just America, but our country as safe as it can be. And is he going to make mistakes in trying to do this? Absolutely. There's going to be military mistakes. People are going to get killed. People are going to, he even told the country this Sunday night. He said, look, there's going to be death. And he said, we're trying our best to keep that at a minimum, but there's going to be, casualties in this. And there's going to be, because when you confront the kind of evil that is in this world, evil is going to fight back. And I this is why I want to just shake a freaking knot into some of these people that are posting the junk and the crap they are about him and our country tonight. And people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Megyn Kelly and the Hodge twins and Cy Gerk and Anna Kasparian and other of these people, Carrie Prejean, who's got an IQ of 3.
I know.
Act like that they think that they know everything there is about foreign policy, and everything's about the Jews. Everything's about Israel. Everything is about America and the Mossad and America CIA. I've got 3 dear friends in the CIA. I've got 3 federal agents that come on this show and talk to us regularly. Eric Herron, James Akers. James was an analyst. Brad was a field agent. Eric was a federal agent who fought against illegal immigration. And they're the most well-versed, spoken men I've ever met. They're friends of mine. I've broke bread with all 3 of them. They're good men. They served their country. They wasn't out to do anything bad. They were just here to defend the country. But Leslie, when you deal with evil, you've got to confront evil sometimes with some force. And it may look like evil to others. It's not evil. When you deal with evil and remove it, it's righteous. Am I right on that?
Oh, amen. I mean, I think that's the thing too about Trump. He's dodged bullets, literally. He's been hit. He's been, ridiculed. What this man goes through for his country, I mean, I don't understand how people don't get it. I can't on any level understand that you can't find some good in some of the things he's done. That's where it's just a wacko. It's almost like a religion for them. Anything anti-Trump.
Well,
I feel sorry for him because it's divided our country. It's divided our country.
Maybe this will help you. Maybe this will make you feel better. I have felt the same bitterness you have felt over some things in this nation, and even personally over the last 3 or 4 years. And I've realized that our life is so short, And when I hear these people like Tucker and Megan and this anti-Semitism, it used to just rile me up to the point that I would lose my lunch. I mean, I would lose my lunch. And I would say things I probably shouldn't say, and I would react some ways on this show. I remember in the early days when I would hear stuff about the country, I go back and I cringe sometimes to some of those older shows when we were just young getting into this, running our mouth and not having a lot of wisdom in what we were saying. And, I think we've wised up a lot over the last 8 years. I hope we have, because I think I've gotten older and more mature, and we're more seasoned about what we're doing. But Leslie, I've come to realize that honestly, and I think this is what gives me great hope. Trump is not moved by what people say about him. I've come to realize that you cannot be moved by every dog that barks. No. It doesn't matter what's out there in that public. It doesn't matter what Hollywood is saying. It doesn't matter what Tucker Carlson is saying, or Megan, or Candace, or these nuts on Telegram, or these mentally deranged people on YouTube, and mentally deranged people on Facebook, or mentally deranged people that run their trap about things they have no knowledge about, but they think they know everything. The best thing to do is stay quiet, stay silent, and stand still and see the salvation of God. And to stand still and be quiet and let them destroy themselves. Because sometimes silence is the best remedy, because you know something? They can't misquote silence. And that's why I love Trump. Sometimes when he could rail back, he's learning the art, and I've seen him grow in this, and I'll let you wrap us up on this. He's learned the art of not railing back when they rail against him. He's still, every now and then, he'll take a shot. But I think he's come a long way in this second term of letting these idiots make a fool of themselves and carry them down the road. I think it's what won him the presidency. That first debate with Joe Biden, if he would have been ugly to Joe Biden that night any more than he was, he let Joe do it to himself. He let the world see Joe Biden say the things that he said, and people say, this guy's crazy as a loon bomb. And I think sometimes the best thing to do is just let people run their mouth. Let them run their mouth and not get upset about it. Because, as I said, they can't misquote silence. And I think Trump is learning that art. And I think in this thing he's resolved. I don't think he cares what Tucker Carlson thinks or Megyn Kelly. And I'm glad he don't. Because that's why I love him as a president. And I think that we all could take a few lessons from that tonight. Wrap us up, final thoughts, buddy.
Well, I totally agree with that. I was going to say, just knowing what we knew from 10 years ago, Trump, and right now, he has grown so much. One of the key reasons is because he has the right people around him. I really do believe God ordained these Christian men around him to guide him and lead him and give him feedback. And I think he listens. He may not always take their advice or do what they think is right, but he calls on a higher power, and I sure hope that's God through the Lord and Savior Jesus. But I have to believe that he is hitting his stride as far as all the things that he's taking in. And I have to believe, too, he's got a bigger 30,000-foot view that I don't have with all these pieces. Like, now, don't you see, Venezuela playing into this? This deal in Iran. I mean, he's setting up such a great generational thing for the next 3 generations. My grandson, your grandsons, all your grandkids, your kids, they're all going to have this so much of a better world because of him. I believe that 100%. It might not, it's not going to be perfect, but I think he's made this world a better place. I don't think there's any question about that. You have to believe that.
No, I'm with you. And again, this is going to be, it's not going to be an overnight victory.
No.
And people need to realize that listening to us, even this late night, Monday night. And we're going to be on a lot of late nights, I'm sure, this month with reports and things that are happening. But I think we are ahead of schedule. They've wiped out pretty much the ability of the Iranians to basically block the Strait of Hormuz. And if they would have
Yeah.
if they'd have done that, gas prices would have tripled. And so we've done some good things already, but I think the struggle is going to be more than just missiles and silos and military leaders. This is going to be to win the hearts of that Iranian populace over to us, to trust us again and take over their government and form a government that at least we're not going to have to go to bed every night wondering are they going to bomb Israel or they're going to blow Israel off with a nuke weapon or basically start World War VI in the Middle East. If you get my drift.
And they act like that Trump wants to shove democracy down their throat and everything. That's not what he's doing. He is trying to free tens of millions of people into a better life. I really believe that. I believe he believes in the women, the oppression that they've suffered, and the men. People, and these people are not stupid. They look across the Gulf and what do they see? Saudi Arabia and all of these countries, Kuwait, all of these places that are just, they must look like paradise compared to what they live through and don't have enough to eat.
I don't agree. Well, I'll put it like this. If Saudi Arabia, through the fog of this, sees the light and acknowledges Israel as a nation, and the UAE follows, and maybe Yemen or Qatar, Jordan has already done that. Egypt has basically recognized Israel's right to exist. They may do it through broken teeth.
Turkey's
done it. But I will tell you this, I think there's a respect factor. And look, Turkey, to be honest with you, and I'm going to talk this over with James later this week, one of our intelligence folks, but I always thought Turkey would be the wild card in this, that they would have come to Iran. If there was any nation in the Middle East that I thought would have stepped in and tried to do something, and I'm not saying they're not, but Erdogan is not showing any signs of getting his hands involved with this. And that tells me a lot right there, because him and Iran are pretty close. I mean, he's got the same ideology as these mullahs did. And he hates Israel with a passion. He hates the Americans with a passion, even though he's part of NATO. And I think that with Turkey not getting involved, I don't think Iran has too many friends other than Russia and China. And as you said a while ago, they're not dumb. They're not going to bite the hand. They're not going to do anything because they depend too much on that Middle East oil to do it. And but anyway, but listen, I appreciate you being up with me this hour.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. I'm gonna have you back
pleasure.
on. Maybe I may get you for a double feature this week. You're becoming a regular on here. I'll see you soon.
Well,
have a good night.
I appreciate that. Take care. You too.
Bless
Bye-bye.
you. Have a good night. Leslie Millwee, everybody. Put some fire in that house fire on this late night, and we're so grateful for. I want to just go over a few things. We're not going to keep you much longer. I had a lot of video. We'll save this for tomorrow night. I will show you the Breitbart website tonight and the headlines. This is the main update as of late night tonight. 6 U.S. soldiers have been, let me just hit the refresh button because this will refresh the page. And there we go. 6 U.S. service members have been killed in Operation Epic Fury. It's ahead of schedule. A dozen of senior Iranian officials have been killed, 49 of them actually as of late tonight. Hezbollah has entered this fight. Israel has hit back hard at them. This in the red is very important, and it's sort of what Leslie was talking about. The no nation building. We're not trying to rebuild Iran the way we want it to be. We want the Iranian people to do this, and Rubio tells Americans to evacuate several Mideast countries. They need to tonight. It's a dangerous place right now. And the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia was hit. There was nobody there. It had been evacuated out of caution of this very thing, so there was no injuries that we know about that. But I want you to look at these idiots over here on the right. You've got Gallego, John Brennan, a bunch of losers. Just a bunch of losers. Durbin, former South Park writer launched his website to send Barron Trump to war. Real classy. Senate is going to try to pass a War Resolution Act. It's going to fail. Senator Kelly, who basically was telling the Army not to obey Trump, like he's some kind of expert on the military. Jane Fonda. I put it like this: if I'm Donald Trump, and I see people like this. By the way, this is interesting. Starmer has told the Americans that they cannot use the British bases in Cyprus. I hope, Kai Starmer, I hope that you enjoy your time, my friend, because your prime ministership is going to come to an end in a crashing halt with this election. I'm telling you, you are backing the players that would destroy your country in a second. Britain is gone, folks. Great Britain is just gone. And anyway, they're going to turn their back on us. Spain has turned their back on us. France has sort of been wishy-washy. He said, and Netanyahu tonight in that interview with Hannity, he's very true. If we didn't hit Iran now, we couldn't have in the future. Folks, let me say this about that, and I'll just put it like this. It's becoming more apparent that Iran had more missiles and they had more ability to form these nuke weapons than we were being told. This Hammer, midsummer Operation Hammer in the summer, when we went in there and we bombed those facilities, was awesome. But it only took out a portion of them. And what Witkoff was saying tonight was when the Iranians told him, they basically said that they had enough to make 10 nuclear bombs still. So that's a lot of, folks, one nuclear bomb. You think about what one nuclear bomb would do to this country, what one nuclear bomb would do in the Middle East. But to have 10 to hold the Middle East hostage and Israel hostage, think about it. I mean, that's a lot. And I think we had to move now. I'm totally with Bibi Netanyahu. I want to play this clip. This is tonight on Hannity. Roll the tape real quick.
Months ago, I sat down with America's partner in this joint operation, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Take a look. Joining us now is the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for being here. I know you've probably gotten very little sleep in the last number of days. Why now? What precipitated this moment at this time? I know you have talked about it. We've known each other 30, 35, maybe more years. And why at this point was this necessary?
Well, the first thing to understand is why it's necessary at any time. Iran, for 47 years, has been chanting death to America, death to Israel too. But you're the big Satan, we're the small Satan. Death to America. They've murdered and maimed thousands of Americans.
They have.
In Iraq and Afghanistan, they're IEDs, these are roadside bombs. They bombed your embassies. They tried to assassinate Donald Trump, the President of the United States, twice. They've murdered their own people. They massacred so many. And they spread a worldwide web of terror. So this is a regime committed to destroying the United States of America. It's the only country on the planet that says so openly and works tirelessly to achieve that goal. The reason that we had to act now is because they were, after we hit their nuclear sites and their ballistic missiles program, you'd think they learned a lesson. But they didn't, because they're unreformable. They're totally fanatic about this, about the goal of destroying America. So they started building new sites, new places, underground bunkers that would make their ballistic missile program and their atomic bomb programs immune within months. If no action was taken now, no action could be taken in the future. And then they could target America, they could blackmail America, they could threaten us and threaten everyone in between. So action had to be taken, and you needed a resolute president like Donald J. Trump to take that action.
And I'll stop it right there. That went on for 20 minutes, and we're going to probably upload that to the Telegram room on our McFiles site. Check our Telegram room out this week, because we got a lot of this stuff that we're going to put up for you. I wanted to talk about these blood moons tonight and the significance of them, but Leslie, the opportunity presented itself to have her come on. I do want to, we're going to have a special Purim service Wednesday night on our Faith Show, but I do want to show you something about the blood moon. This blood moon is coming up at 5 in the morning. It's probably going to start around 3 a.m. in the morning tonight. But I don't know if you remember this. The last time we've had other blood moons in the past, the most significant blood moons were basically in 2014 and 2015. We had what we called a tetrad, and there were 4 of them. April the 15th of 2014, October the 8th of 2014, April the 4th of 2015, and September the 27th and 28th of 2015. And during that time, 4 events took place. And by the way, usually a blood moon is an omen of things to come that are bad. That's what the Persians thought. Ironically, we're in Persia tonight with the military, but it was during that time, if you look back at the timeline of our country, ISIS began to rise in the Middle East about this same time that these blood moons were being seen we had not had something like this in centuries. I mean, this was a once in a lifetime. This won't happen again for 100 years. I think the next blood moon after tonight is December of 28, so we won't have one next year, but there will be one in 28. And December the 31st, incidentally, New Year's Eve, will be the next one that when this occurs. It's a full lunar eclipse. It basically is the moon is going to be blocked from the sun, and the moon are going to come. The sun's going to come in between the moon, and it's going to cast a red glow on the moon tonight. But it was also during this time that it really started the seeds of the Russia-Ukraine conflict that is 4 years old now. But in 2014, that was when Russia annexed Crimea, and the tensions between the USA and Russia. Obama was in office during this time, by the way, so that should tell you something. And then we had the Ferguson unrest that took place during this blood moon. This was when Michael Brown was shot in Missouri, and national protest, and this was really the beginning of some of these cities being burned down. Ferguson, Missouri almost was burned to the ground with this. And it was watching LA riots all over again. Many of you remember that. I was sitting in a Dunkin' Donuts with my 2 sons. I was, Josh and Brandon, that night that this happened. And even in that Dunkin' Donuts, people were screaming and they were really riled up. And I just quietly told the boys, I said, whenever y'all get ready, we need to get out of here as quickly as we can. And we quietly got up. We didn't make any scene. We didn't look at nobody. We just simply walked out the door, and people were screaming at the television, and it was pretty tense. And we got in our car and got out of there. But the weird thing about this, it was in the middle of all these tetrads, in between April the 4th and September of 2015, that same-sex marriage was legalized in this country. And that has opened a Pandora's box of hell on this nation. And so that's what has happened then. There's been other events and blood moons in general. We did a chart for you here, and I'll talk about this because this has to do with Persia. In the reign of Darius III, we talked about this this morning, and we'll talk about it again in the morning. Later this morning, it started 1235 in the east. One of the most famous blood moons of history actually occurred around 336 to 330 BC, and it has to do with Persia. Darius III, the Babylonian astronomers recorded several eclipses. The most significant one connected to his downfall occurred shortly before his decisive defeat by Alexander the Great. On September the 20th of 331 BC, a total lunar eclipse, what we call a blood moon, was recorded in the Babylonian astronomical diaries. It occurred 11 days before that battle of Gaugamela, October the 1st. Darius III was decisively defeated. A Persian imperial power collapsed, and Greece, or Macedonia, became the most dominant empire on the earth at that time, but it was preceded by a blood moon. And I think that it's very prophetic tonight that Iran has been a great force in the Middle East, a terrorist force, a thorn in the side of nothing but bloodshed, terror, and nothing but evil. And tonight is not Greece that is doing the battling. It is America and Israel. It is America and Israel. And Babylonian astrologers interpreted these things as omens often tied to the fate of kings. And is it not ironic that just one day ago that the king or the leader of this Persian kingdom was murdered and killed, and I wouldn't say murdered, he was killed righteously. It was a righteous, destructive force that America did by bombs that we went to their bunker. And we not only took out him, but we took out the entire Iranian leadership, neighbor. These things don't happen by accident. They just don't. And Persia was defeated during that time. And there is other events we want to talk about this blood moon tonight. And we'll talk about Purim more Wednesday night because it's tied to Purim. It's really tied to Purim in many ways. But I did a research about events that surrounded these major blood moons. And in May of 1939 through October the 28th of 1939, there was two total lunar eclipses. There were two of these, and World War I began World War II began September the 1st. And by the way, that was tied to Israel because 6 million Jews got slaughtered in that war, thanks to Adolf Hitler, sadly. And then World War II began September the 1st. It ended in August of 1945, and it began a major global political realignment, including the seeds for the world to have sympathy upon Israel, to find her a place, a homeland for her safety. Israel would become a nation 3 years later in 1948. But there was a total lunar eclipse on November the 29th of 1945 at the end of the war, just as there was two that started at the beginning of the war. And then in 1949 to 1950, there were total lunar eclipses. It was beginning of the Cold War between America and Russia and the formation of NATO in 1949. An interesting one occurred in 1967 through 1968. There were total lunar eclipses during those 2 years. And of course, many of you realize that the 6-Day War took place shortly after one of these. That was the year that Israel captured Jerusalem's old city for the first time since the days of Jesus, since the days of the dispersion by the Romans in AD 70. And that began a major political shift in the Middle East as well. We had another total lunar eclipse, 1990 to 1991. That was the year that we wound up in the Middle East again. The last time we had a blood moon over there, we wound up in the Gulf War of 1990, 1991. Iraq was the perpetrator then, not Persia, but Iraq was the enemy. And they had invaded Kuwait. H.W. Bush had given him a month to get out. Saddam Hussein wouldn't do it. And before you knew it, we turned our television on the 1st of 91. It was January. I was just starting at the newspaper that year. And Iraq, we sent Operation Desert Storm. Norman Schwarzkopf led the charge, and we invaded along with the U.S.-led coalition. We didn't take Saddam Hussein out then. We should have. But Bush Sr. was scared that the Arab world would turn on him if he did. And then in January 9th of 2001, there was also a total lunar eclipse. That was a year that will live in infamy in this nation as well. 10 years later, after the 91 Gulf War, we found ourselves with a total lunar eclipse on January the 9th of that year. And it would be some 9 months later. 9 is a number of judgment, by the way. Some 9 months later, almost 8 months, the September 11th attacks took place in New York and Washington, D.C., and in Pennsylvania. The plane that was taken down that was probably headed back to the White House, or probably the White House or the Capitol One. But that occurred during a time of lunar eclipses. Also, we just talked about the tetrad. There were 4 blood moons that had not occurred in a mighty, mighty long time. April the 15th, April the 4th, October the 8th, and September the 25th of those years, respectively. And this interesting date, 2018, July the 27th, 2018, we had another total lunar eclipse. It was the longest lunar eclipse. It lasted around an hour and 30 minutes. It was the longest of the century. We had not seen a blood moon last that long in this past century. And I'm sure there's been lunar eclipses before this. I just did this within the last century. But there have been significant, that was a period when Trump had been in office a couple of years. And you knew what was going on in the country. We had impeachment. We had the Russia collusion hoax. We had Trump was being attacked left and right. And there was just nothing but, it was a horrible time. The Q movement arose. And I don't look at the Q movement as being a positive. We had conspiracy things going on all over the place. And that summer was a very bad summer of discontent in this country. And it ultimately led to the fiasco of 2020. And, but anyway, in biblical context, Joel 2:31 talks about the sun and moon being turned to blood. Acts 2:20 quotes Joel. Revelation 6:12 also talks about the sun and moon being turned to blood. But I will tell you this, folks, those passages have to deal with the Great Tribulation. There will be signs in the heavens, signs in the stars, signs in the sun, and signs in the moon that we're in the last of the last days. These events are all tied to blood moons. And tonight, on this it will be the third day. It's 3326. 3326. We are involved in a conflict in Persia. And this is a warning that, this is a world event. And I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and try to give you my take on what ultimately that means fully. I guess we will see how this plays out, whether this ends well or bad. But it has to do with Israel. Everything, all of these events has to do with America and Israel. Iraq attacked Israel in 91. The people that did the bombing of a World Trade Center were people that were, at that moment, the Saudis in that time was antagonistic to Israel. And Islam, the religion, connected all of these events, if you get down to it, except for the World War II, that was fascism of Germany. But Israel was at the forefront of many of these, and she's at the forefront of many of them tonight. So interesting stuff there, just some things to chew on, and thought that you would enjoy that. And know you, Grant, how can you mitigate the effects of it? No, you can't mitigate the effects of it. If it's been written in the heavens and the stars, no, you sure can't. All you can do is pray, my friend. All you can do is pray. But I thought that would be an interesting little tidbit for you. We got some video for you. Look, we're right at 11:45. I might as well just keep you another 15 minutes. I do want to play a couple of videos for you tonight. This is Steve Witkoff. Before I play him, I'm going to deal with anti-Semitism later this week. I want you to watch this. This is the Iranians just 2 months ago, in their parliament, maybe less than that. I think this was in January. They were doing this. That's an American flag. Pete Hegseth tonight had the quote of the year. He said Iran has been quoting death to America, death to America, death to America for 50 years. He said 49 of their leaders tonight has received death from America. I'll amen that. I'll say amen to that. They did. They did. This is Israel tonight celebrating Purim, and not all is gloom and doom in Israel tonight. They're celebrating the commemoration of the death of Haman on the gallows. That's tonight. That is Purim. And this is California. Not that. That's almost done. And that is a beautiful scene there tonight. That was in the streets of downtown Jerusalem. And I'm just, whoa, what did I do? I just lost everything there. Hang on just a second. I do that all the time sometimes with this computer. We are going to get a new computer here soon. Goodness gracious. This computer is awful. But that was the scene in Jerusalem. This was the scene in LA today. These are Iranians celebrating. Maybe we need to send this to our Democrat friends, not that I got too many on the Democrat side, but maybe we need to explain to them in crayon why this incident or these events in Iran are so important. It's for these like this right here. That is LA today. Even in California, they are celebrating. They are celebrating the liberation, at least what they believe to. These are IDF soldiers tonight. Our prayers for them and the IDF and all of our soldiers celebrate here tonight. And that is a beautiful scene as well tonight. The IDF celebrating Purim. This is a picture of a blood moon. If you've never seen one, this is actually taken from a few years ago, and that's what it's going to look like tonight in the middle part of the morning, around 5 o'clock here in the Central Time Zone, 6 o'clock for you, those folks in the east, especially the farther east you go. That's what you're going to look at. It's how it's going to look tonight. Grant, I'm going to answer your question before I leave because it's a good question, but it's also a question that's really complicated. Beautiful. Saw this tonight. It was so beautiful tonight. And it really speaks to where we're at prophetically tonight in Iran and so forth. This is, I'm going to save all this anti-Semitic talk for tomorrow night. I'm going to deal with that. But I do want to play this lady's comments. She's Iranian. She's speaking to the Democrats tonight of why this event in Iran is righteous. Roll the tape.
Democrats are brainwashed. I don't understand how you guys can support the killing of 40,000 people over the past 3 weeks, but yet when Trump bombs Iran, this is what they were asking for. They were asking to be bombed so that the government can go away. Now you guys are upset that like an elementary school of children was killed. Well, what about all the 40,000 people that were killed before? This doesn't make any sense. You guys are fake humanitarians, and you guys are brainwashed. It's delusional. You guys don't make sense.
They've never made sense, and it takes children to recognize that. And she's absolutely correct. We thought we had a video, by the way, of the so-called bomb that people claim Israel dropped on that school. It was an Iranian bomb that went up and was It fell back down. It went up and fell right back down on that school. That's where the kid was killed. It was not Israel's or the Americans' bomb that did it. By the way, Tommy Robinson, love him or hate him, Obama sent Khomeini $1.7 billion. Biden sent him $6 billion. Trump sent him to hell. All it took was a new president. Sort of blunt, sort of to the point, but can't say that I disagree. Can't say that I disagree. Grant, you asked a question. You say, is there anything that we can do to mitigate the effects of a blood moon, or are we fated to have bad things happen? Grant, as long as this earth is run by evil men and we're not fated to anything, we have a choice. No, man has a choice not to be evil. He can accept Christ and be saved. He can accept Christ and be saved. If man wants to live the way he's living, I wouldn't call that fate. I call that man's choice. God gives man life, and he gives man a choice of death. It's up to us. But these blood moons have always been signs in the heavens. It's really a warning. When you get down to it, it's a warning. This thing in Iran tonight, folks, is a warning. It's a warning to everybody. It's a warning to our nation. It's a warning to the world that we're in the last days. We're living in the last of the last days. And that is what we're facing tonight. And we need to be understanding that. Man has a choice, Grant. So when you say fated, I hate to tell you, brother, there ain't nothing fated. There's no such thing as fate. There's either God's will or man's will. There's either God's way or man's way. That's what it is. There's no such thing as luck. I hate to hear Christians use the word luck. We don't have luck. We either walk in God's will or we don't walk in God's will. The good steps of a righteous man are ordered by God. The wicked don't have that pleasure. The wicked, all they do is perpetrate more evil. And the more evil they perpetrate, the more evil that operates on this earth. God is trying to warn us tonight. and I, people don't have to agree with this. I believe it's a warning to America even about our treatment of Israel. And we better wake up to the fact of these anti-Semitic podcasters and these voices and these Christians in Telegram rooms that are posting anti-Semitic hate and sharing it. You're just as guilty as the haters. You're just as guilty as the anti-Semites for sharing it out. It's a warning. It's a warning. It's a warning that we're getting late. It's getting late. It's getting late. And this world is headed toward Armageddon. That's what it's a warning for. Warning for it. I'll say amen to myself. I'll amen myself tonight. Interesting, Haman's 10 sons were hung, and in 1946, 10 Nazis were hung. Both wanted Jewish people killed. Carol, what a great analogy. I didn't realize the 1946 thing. That's a great analogy. And you're right, all of Haman's family died with him, his wife included. And there are many Hamans running around the earth tonight, preparing gallows for the Jewish people, and they're going to be sorely sad. They're going to be sorely, sorely, sorely disappointed by what they're hoping for. They're going to be sorely, sorely sad by what they're hoping for. All righty, it's late. And Matt or mate or whatever you are, who's getting paid? I have no idea what you're asking. I have no idea what you're asking. Any other questions tonight? John, most people in the Holy Land are probably, even Ambassador Huckabee tweeted out tonight, he was in a bomb shelter. He said he'd been in the bomb shelter all day over there. So yeah, they're hiding out in the bomb shelter. They really are. But I saw this image tonight, and I think this sums up where we're at right now. It sums up where we're at. The cross is the only hope for all three of those nations in that picture right there. I want to make that clear. I'm going to go out on a faith note this morning. The cross of Christ is the only hope for all three of these nations. I hope you understand that tonight. I think most of you do this in this audience. But the cross of Christ is the only hope for America. It's the only hope for Israel. and it's the only hope for Iran. If Iran plans to have a better nation, they need to come to Christ, just like America needs to come to Christ, just like Israel needs to come to Christ. That's why we send gospel messages to Iran. That's why we support missionaries there. That's why we pray for the church in Iran. Because this is not about destroying the Iranian people. This is about freeing them so they can serve God. And I'm not talking about Allah. I'm talking about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob tonight. That's my heart. That's my cry for the Arab world, just like it's my cry for the Jewish people, just like it's the cry for my own people here in America tonight. We're not free that we can kill babies. We're not free that we can smoke dope and weed and drink beer and have a good old time at the bar on Saturday night. We're not free to do those things. No, we've been given freedom that we may live righteously and righteousness exalt our nation, and that we may serve Jesus and be a light of his light and gospel to a world that sits in darkness tonight. That's why we're free. That's why we're free. That is why we're free. That is why we're free. And Dennis, I'm not going to address the hearings anymore. I'm done with the hearings. I think what's more important tonight is Iran. Iran in this situation. And that's what I'm concerned about tonight. I could give 2 bit pins less about the hearings at this point. All right, folks, listen, we've been grateful you had us. I've got a lot more to talk about, but we've got a whole week with you, and we will be back. And look for us in the morning on our Bible study. We'll talk about these blood moons maybe a little bit more, but we're going to be studying in Psalms 119, and we hope you've enjoyed this special live McFiles special tonight. Purim is tied into this. This has to do with Purim. And we'll talk about that Wednesday night in our Faith Show. How about that? And so join us then. May God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. Pray for our nation tonight, folks. Our prayers for these family members of the 6 servicemen that have been killed and the 18 wounded. We pray that they recover. You need to pray for your country tonight, neighbor. We all need to pray for each other. We need to pray for America. We need to pray for Israel. And yes, we need to pray for Iran. We need to pray that God sends a leader over that nation to bring it out of this Islamic darkness. We really do. We really do. And I pray that's the case. We got a blood moon in the morning. Chew on it. Need to pray. I need to intercede and pray for our nation. God bless you out there tonight, and I'll see you back here later this morning and then throughout the day on Tuesday. Have a good night, everybody. Be blessed.